All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. It is Friday, September 29th, 2023. Man, it's hard to believe that the month of September is almost over. All right. Our agenda today, we'll start out with success stories. We'll then go to our 30-second introductions. We'll then have some community reports. We'll hear about the practice interview team, the interview success workshop, the career tip of the week, and then our main event around the top of the hour. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter your questions into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, please enter your questions into the comment field. Also, and I'm going to start asking this for the next few weeks. We'd love to know where you're watching from. So if you would, open up your chat window and just let us know what city you're watching from, so we have an idea of where people are around the country. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. This group's been around since the late 1990s. We've been meeting here at Christ United Methodist Church since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader of the group landed a job. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. I saw a need and created a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIC crew, and you'll hear more about that in just a moment. Well, we'd like to start the meeting off with good news. Do we have any landings out there? Any landings anybody would like to share? Anybody in here? No? All right, well, we'll move on here. All right, what we'd love for everybody to do who's on the chat window or on Zoom with us, please enter your name, comma, phone number, comma, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, then hit the return key. That way everything will be all together. I will use this to update the roster that I will send out this afternoon. And it's what I ask you look it over and see what company do you maybe have a contact at that you can help somebody else who's on our meeting. So if you will, put that information in the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, if you want to put your information in the comment field, I will delete it immediately after the meeting happens. And for those people that are here in the room, everybody here has filled out a slip of paper, and we'll have them give their 30-second introductions here in just a moment. So let me put 30 seconds on the clock. All right, if you're still typing, please feel free to do that. If you don't put your information in the chat window, I don't know you're with us, and then you won't get an email this afternoon with the roster and everything. And that roster that I do send out, it's got 3 tabs on it. The first tab are those people who are active that have been here, that are here with us today. The second tab is those alumni. And the alumni list goes back to pre-me, so it would be 2005, 2006, somewhere like that. So you can go back and look at all the people who've landed a job from this group. And then the third tab are those people we've lost contact with. So this way, if you're looking for a job, I would go through the alumni tab and put in a Control F to search for on an Excel spreadsheet and put in the name of a company, see what pops up, because that person has sat right here. They've done what you've done. They've been part of this meeting before, and you can reach out to them. They may not work there anymore, but maybe they've got contacts and maybe they can help you out. All right. What we're going to do now is for those people that are here in the room with us, we're going to allow them to give their 30-second introductions. Let me pop open that camera so you can see. Not everybody can be seen here right now, but let's see here. Close that out. If somebody wants to grab the mic, and we'll just pass it around and give us your 30-second introductions.
Morning, Jim Parker, electrical engineer with tons of experience in technical sales and marketing. I'm looking for a position in sales and marketing or technical training because I can explain anything to anybody. I'm Jim Parker.
Morning, my name is Todd Billingsley. Got over 20 years experience in transportation logistics, looking for a transportation or logistics manager. I'm looking for contacts at Dr. Pepper, Keurig, Container Store in Bowen. Again, my name is Todd Billingsley.
Morning, everybody. I'm Jama Ball. I'm an experienced global operations leader. I enjoy creating order out of chaos. I cultivate operational excellence by building resilient teams and optimizing service delivery and product implementation. I'm looking for an executive level role where I can lead and inspire teams, drive innovation, and achieve remarkable outcomes. I need contacts at Tyler Technologies and Rippling. My name is Jama Ball.
Hi, my name is Jen Riggle. I'm a senior communications professional with 20 years of experience helping companies tell their story and build their brand. I describe myself as a storyteller, whether it's working as a reporter outside of Boston, supporting a business leader, or writing customer case studies. My job is to help make the complicated simple. I'm currently looking for a senior comms role at a company here in Dallas. I'm currently doing some contract work at Yum Brands, so that's a key target for me. But I'm also interviewing at Baylor Scott & White and AT&T. And again, my name is Jen Riggle.
Morning, I'm Lisa Crawford. I'm a writer with skills in copywriting and technical writing. I provide strategic solutions to achieve your communication goals. My name is Lisa Crawford.
I'm Locke Alderson, a retired recruiter with 42 years in industry and corporate environment, and also agency environment. I'm an active career consultant working with those in job and career transition. I've spent 22 years doing that now, and a speaker on Jeff's LinkedIn Tuesdays, and also work with a group at our church in terms of job readiness training and teaching them. And my name is Locke Alderson, looking for speaking engagements.
Hi, my name is Linda Ferris. I have 25 plus years in human resources, and I help companies drive effective compensation strategies. I am seeking a compensation related manager analyst position. I need contacts at either nonprofits or hospitals. That's what I'm interested in. Again, my name is Linda Ferris.
Should I stand? No, I'll sit down. My name is Tyler Bauer. I am an avid learner with an ability to customize messaging for across different departments. I have a background in IT business analysis, creating solutions that drive efficiency. I help assess risk across multiple departments and technical contributors. I need contacts at Zeiston and Intelnet. And my name is Tyler Bauer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is William McLaughlin. I'm looking for a data analytics role, and I do the research necessary for companies to help them improve their bottom line, which will help make data-driven decisions to do that. I need contacts at CoreLogic and Leidos. My name is William McLaughlin. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Lowry. I grow companies. As a business development enthusiast, I utilize client relationships and creative and continuous strategies to get profitable results. I'm Bill Lowry.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. All right. And in the future, for those of you who live in the DFW area, please come join us in person. Because the great thing is that when we get done here, the 12, 13 people that are here, we're all going to network with each other. We're going to find out more about who they are and how we can help each other. So please come join us in person. All right, let's see here. Remove that. Here we go. All right. If you know somebody who's unemployed, please let them know about Career DFW or Career USA. Two totally free websites. They're just there to help the job seeker. They do not collect any personal information. There is no cost to use these two sites. They're just here to help somebody in unemployment. One of the things you'll find on the Career DFW website are a bunch of calendars. The pink are job fairs, the gold are special workshops that are happening. The silver or the purple are webinars that are happening. Blue are those meetings that are meeting in person. So please, there's always something going on. And for those people who live outside the DFW area, most of these webinars, there's Zoom links and everything. So you can join any one of the networking groups that are happening here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. All right, let me talk a second about well, I'll tell you what, you want to talk about the practice interview team? Okay, hold on just 1 second here. Instead of me doing it, I'll let Jama talk about it.
Good morning, everybody. The practice interview team is the main purpose to help you cross the finish line. As Jeff often says, your LinkedIn, your resume will get you in the door, but the interview is really where you get the job. It takes three to five times to really practice, and this is a free service that we offer here. We do it on Zoom or the first and third Wednesdays, we do it in person here at Christ United Methodist Church. If you would like to get some practice with your interview skills, send your resume and your job descriptions about 3 to 4 days out to the Dallas Pit Crew at gmail.com. And a group of us volunteer panelists will be happy to interview you. And you get one valuable thing that I like to emphasize when you do the Pit Crew experience, you get feedback. Stuff you don't get when you actually interview. You get some very constructive feedback about how you come across either in Zoom or in person, and we'd be happy to help you. Hundreds of people have come through this Pit Crew experience, and one of the most common pieces of feedback we get is the Pit Crew interview is harder than the actual interview. So if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Please join us at the Dallas Pit Crew.
All right, you're gonna break out the song for us. Thank you very much for telling us about that. All right, the other great offer that we've got in the DFW area is the Interview Success Workshop. So Walt, good morning.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Happy Friday. What is it that the Interview Success Workshop does that is different than the Pit Crew? Well, first of all, I heartily recommend the practice interview team and the mock interview. I think that should be a part of our learning process in acing our interviews. But when I looked at that, I said, I think I need to take a couple of steps back because I screwed up an interview back in 2000 so badly that I figured out that I better do something different about interviewing. So I developed a model of how and what can we do to sell ourselves, and define that as who we are, what we do, and how we help. How do we sell those three elements in an interview? How can we differentiate ourselves as well? So I put together the workshop back in 2000. And so it's been quite a few interviews since then. I've been actively retired for about 12 years, and I only had 40 years in my career log. I didn't have 42. So all you have to do to register to attend is you can use that QR code to send me an email and say, hey, I'm interested in it. I just need to know your phone number, how'd you learn about the workshop, and I can get you on the schedule. You can also look me up on LinkedIn. You can see my about section, and it describes really the workshop because that's what my current activity is. Be glad to have you participate. Now, this is a learning workshop. It is not a mock interview. It is a time we can enjoy ourselves. We can have some fun learning. And how can we improve our skills and having that successful interview? So I would invite you to register, come on down. I call it Learning Without Squirming. Applying online on a laptop is not the best way to job shop. Register for the interview workshop. It'll put you on the list at the top.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much. Okay. Let me do that. Okay. We're back going here. Lots of buttons to push here. All right. It's time to hear about the career tip of the week. Every week on the Career DFW and Career USA websites, you'll see a brand new career tip of the week they pop up on Saturday afternoon. Rosanna is with us today, and she's going to read it for us. So good morning, Rosanna.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. All right. Oh, so this week's tip of the week is dated September 24th, and it's 5 things to consider when hiring a new employee. So how can hiring professionals improve candidate quality and time to hire, increase diversity, and grow a talent pipeline in this new world of work? This article is by Aisha White. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics recently projected that total employment will grow by 8.3 million additional jobs between 2021 and 2031, with the pandemic recovery surging as the key driver of new job creation. And organizations are feeling the recruiting and hiring pressures. Almost 66% of all organization leaders currently are prioritizing building their talent pools of the future, yet challenges persist. So how can hiring professionals improve candidate quality and time to hire, as well as increasing diversity and growing their talent pipeline in this new world of work? Here are the top 5 things you should consider when hiring an employee. First, you want to consider cultural fit. Workplace cultures have greatly shifted as a result of the pandemic, including employee preference to work remotely or hybrid. According to the Deloitte Global 2022 Gen Z and Millennial Survey, Gen Zers and Millennials list the following cultural reasons they choose to work for their current organization. It's good work-life balance, a sense of meaning from work, flexible working model, such as can work remotely, on location, or a combination, and then position workplace culture, such as employees feel valued or a sense of belonging. Of course, Gen Zers value independence, work-life balance, flexibility, and informality. Baby boomers value loyalty, hard work, and focus. With all 4 of these generations active in the workplace and in the shadow of the pandemic, leaders have the opportunity to reassess and reimagine workplace culture and hire those who will meld seamlessly into the newly crafted environment. Neil Murray, global CEO at JLL Work Dynamics, recently told HCL Tech that to engage and attract job seekers in today's market, organizations need to be authentic and true to their purpose. Words aren't good enough anymore. Your client value propositions need to be seamlessly integrated with your talent and employee proposition. Because culture fit plays such an integral role in retaining the right employees, hiring professionals must focus on acquiring talent that aligns with and can add to the employer's core values and culture. Second, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Pre-pandemic, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or otherwise known as DEI, measures were more of a nice to have, or even we should do this. Now, it is widely recognized that properly executed DEI workplace initiatives help companies achieve their higher productivity, increase innovation, and greater profits. Leaders should be looking to add to the diversity of thought in their companies to ensure a competitive advantage by setting the DEI tone at the top, knowing your company's diversity data to identify gaps a new hire may fill, and then reviewing recruiting strategies to ensure DEI efforts and outcomes are aligned. This includes reviewing your job ad and making the necessary changes to attract a wider audience, targeting more diverse job seekers through colleges and universities, social media, and national Panhellenic associations or affinity networking groups, encouraging current employees to refer candidates who would enhance a diverse talent pipeline, leveraging your diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging during the recruiting process, and including a diverse panoply of leaders in the interviewing process. And then you also want to have listening to current employees on diversity issues and challenges to be able to make changes that will attract talent. And with 78% of hiring professionals saying diversity is the top trend impacting how they hire, it is clear that an I to DEI is paramount in successful hiring. The third thing should be done is firsthand references to past work. According to a recent Society for Human Resource Management survey, 87% of employers check references during the hiring process. During these checks, employers typically learn about a candidate's employment history, job performance, and eligibility for hire. However, are employers really getting a firsthand look into the job candidate's past work? Not typically. Let's look at evidence-based reference checks, which can immensely helpful in determining if you're hiring the right person. Evidence-based reference checks or competency-based reference checking goes beyond the general questions and gets specific. After all, you want a firsthand look at the job candidate's actual abilities and competencies. Here are some questions to consider when performing reference checks. Tell me about how you and the job candidate work together. How did the job candidate interact with their other team members? Was the job candidate successful in mentoring or managing others? For this position, we're specifically looking at the following skills. Based on this job, do you believe the job candidate is a good fit for this position? In what areas would the job candidate need extra support in the first 60 or 90 days on the job? And did the job candidate have any big wins when they worked for you? What were any setbacks? By uncovering a candidate's prior performance, you will have great indicators for future performance at your company. Next, intellectual curiosity. In today's fast-paced agile business environment, leaders should include intellectual curiosity as a preference in the skills in all job descriptions. When hiring for intellectual curiosity, try to find candidates who are not only qualified and have good cultural fit, but also are capable of thinking beyond the role that they are interviewing for. These individuals question the approaches to task and want a deeper understanding of why they're doing what they're doing and how it will help the company in the long run. When interviewing, hiring managers or hiring leaders should ask questions that gauge candidate curiosity and assess the answers, demeanor, and the thought process behind each response. Here are some examples of questions to ask. Tell me about something you recently taught yourself. What books have you read lately? Tell me about your hobbies. How do you strive for continual self-improvement? And what interests you in this position? Interviewers can also determine intellectual curiosity through the questions asked by the job candidate. Look for job candidates who ask thoughtful follow-up questions throughout the interview, showing their natural curiosity and interest. And then fifth, complementary skills for company growth today and tomorrow. You want to take a look at those things. So from 2020 to 2021, experts estimate that the workplace evolved 5 to 10 years, all in 12 months, accelerated by a global pandemic. With continuing advances in technology, new generations entering the workplace, and current generations growing into leadership roles, the need for a new skill set will be in high demand for both employees and employers alike. According to Gartner, HR leaders and recruiting professionals are finding it increasingly difficult to quickly find and develop talent with the most in-demand skills. Yet 58% of the workforce needs new skills to get their jobs done. For example, data shows that the number of skills needed to complete a single job in 2017 has increased by 10% each year since then. Further, 1 in 3 skills in a 2017 IT sales and finance job listing is already obsolete. When determining complementary skills for employees now and those needed for the future growth of the company, HR leaders should consider the following. You want to assess the skill sets of current employees. That will help you map out what skills your team have and what skills you need to supplement, which should also be considered when hiring new employees. You want to also look at identifying secondary and tertiary skills set to leverage complementary skills of current employees and job candidates at scale. And when considering secondary and tertiary skills, determine what skills need to be further developed to help your business grow. Also determine whether the further development of these skills can be achieved through reskilling or upskilling. And then you want to focus on making jobs and their required skills more fluid. Traditional career paths often assume skills won't change to a large degree. In today's world, this isn't the case. By adding flexibility and fluidity into jobs, employers can better take advantage of current skills and secondary and tertiary skills, helping current and new employees grow their jobs while adding to organizational value. When hiring new employees to your team, take your skills assessments to the next level by assessing not only primary skills, but also secondary and tertiary skills. This allows you to fill in the current skills gap in your company while planning for the future. And then as far as moving ahead, as businesses today are expected to be more agile, innovative, and productive, incorporating these trends when hiring your employees will not only help you attract and retain top talent, but also create a dynamic organization, one that's already ready for what's to come. This article again is the career tip of the week dated September the 24th, and it's 5 things to consider when hiring a new employee. I would highly recommend you guys reread this article because there's a lot of really good information from a job seeker standpoint, but also from a hiring leader standpoint, all addressed within this article. So please give it another read, but enjoy the weekend.
Rosanna, thank you very, very much. Yes, I mean, that's one of the reasons I posted this article. When I read it, it was just like, as a job seeker, I thought there's some really good details if we can see what they're looking for and what they may be doing. So please go back, you'll be able to go back and read it all. It'll be on the website forever and ever and ever. So Rosanna, thank you very, very much. All right, come join us today for lunch, 11:45. We're gonna go to Country Burger, 3115 West Parker Road, northwest corner at Parker and Independence, burger, salad, and more. So if you're interested, come join us today. We'd love to come see you, come network and, opportunity to find out more about you and how we can help you. So come join us today, 11:45. All right, in just a moment here, we're going to hear from John Light, who's going to talk about artificial intelligence impact on recruiting. But I wanted to mention next Friday, we're going to do open forum, being the first Friday of the month. That's hard to believe. It's already beginning of October. First Friday of the month, we'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, whatever questions you've got about your job search. Feel free, bring them, start writing them down, and we can ask, and everybody here can offer their opinions and suggestions. All right. Our speaker today, after starting his career in accounting, John has spent 20 years in every corner of the recruiting industry. His company is a tech-focused search firm called SBR2TH, helps organizations target and hire talent in data science, analytics, engineering, machine learning, AI, and development. John focuses in tech, allowing him to connect and share thoughts with some of the most cutting-edge experts, blazing the trails for those developments that are changing our lives. Today, John's going to talk about how AI is affecting his business and how he uses it to find us. So John, thank you very much for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. And welcome to everyone here. I tell you what, I was really focused on everything I had to say until you put up that monstrous stack of a hamburger picture. Now I kind of want to go back to that and spend some time there. But
there you go.
Okay, well, can I just stare at it for a while? We might have to sit here.
I'll send it to
That-
you.
That's a monstrosity. Mercy. And funny thing of it is, and if it's okay, I'll share my screen in just a moment with a small presentation. But funny thing of it is when we look at AI, one of my points that I make is that AI is not necessarily going to make the combinations, if you will, that you're going to make. So, for example, it would be very hard for AI to suddenly put things like peanut butter and chocolate together unless it had been trained or fed the necessary data to come to that conclusion. And I don't know about you, but life without peanut butter and chocolate matched together will be a lot less interesting in my book. So my firm, Sabretooth, is focused on tech talent. Now, whether you're a fan of Bill Gates or not, doesn't really matter. He made an interesting comment or quote that he's attributed with, is that all companies are now tech companies. And regardless of what you're doing in the moment now or what you were doing 3 years or 5 years ago, whether you're a solopreneur or you're working for a behemoth on Wall Street, your company's a tech company. You may not see it, you may not recognize it, but the bowels and the belly of the beast are driven by data. And it's only become more amplified and more obvious to everybody, I suppose, if you lift the hood up or open the curtain as we go on. So let's take a moment and hopefully I can get this bad boy to cooperate. So, and let's start here about how does artificial intelligence make recruitment better? And let me preface this by saying everything as it relates to artificial intelligence is subject to change. If you're not familiar with Moore's law, it basically stipulates that every 2 years, the human race sees a doubling of computing power. So every 2 years since the first microchip, and even before that, when the first kind of enigmatic machine over at IBM in the 50s or whenever it was, every 2 years, the capacity of that computer or what was available to us would double. So if you stop and look at this on a global perspective, where we're at today in 2 years, you can expect reasonably somewhere in the range of 2 times more computing power. As someone once told me when the iPhones first came out, or maybe it's just a famous thing going around at the time, you have enough computing power in that iPhone, in the original set of iPhones, to do a moonshot. It's roughly equivalent to the computing power NASA had back in the late 60s. So in the palm of your hand. So it's pretty impressive where things are going. And there's 2 practical uses for AI today. Now remember, artificial intelligence in theory has been around since the late 40s and 50s. At application, making it a practical thing, what a lot of people don't understand is machine learning, which has been around for a while, is a form of artificial intelligence, but it's static. It's primarily used for analytics. It could be predictive analytics. It could be ongoing analytics. What machine learning is not is generative. However, all your large language models and all your models developed in Python and R and TensorFlow and all this are sitting out there doing some form of machine learning, which forms the basis for the next step in AI, which is a generative AI. That's predictive. It evolves based on inputs, feedbacks, corrections, experience, i.e. it can be trained. And think about that very closely. It can be trained. That's good and that's bad. And it produces somewhat novel content, but it's synthesized content in reality. There's been a lot of court cases recently over can artwork generated by AI be considered intellectual property? And the answer so far is no, it cannot, because it actually hasn't created something new. It hasn't created something novel. Rather, it takes bits and pieces from all these other things it's been fed and puts them together. So innovation, creativity, developing IP, those are still human domains. But if you notice, there's another bubble on the page right now. It says theory of the mind. Theory of the mind is theoretically the next step in the evolution of AI. Theory of the mind is that you are able to sit there and have a conversation that includes emotional recognition with a machine. Okay, we're still a ways off from that, but don't doubt for a moment that people aren't trying to get us there as fast as they can. So currently, you're going to find AI around assisted sourcing and search efforts. In fact, my ATS that I work in, Loxo, we've had the machine learning side, what they call Loxo Source, for quite a while. And earlier this year, they came out with Loxo Chat, which enables us to do things such as creative writing, developing outreach campaigns, for example, do not dynamic knowledge management. It doesn't do translation. Thank goodness. It'd probably be a mess with my luck. And they're not to conversational agents, but most of your conversational agents, your chatbots, most of your translation programs, all AI driven today. I actually had a candidate on an early fund or early stage company CTO search. Was not the successful candidate. And this guy was sitting in the middle of the country in Kansas City, ended up self-teaching Python, learned how to be an AI developer on his own, didn't go to school for it or anything. He was a data analyst originally in his career. And when he didn't succeed in securing the CTO role, he basically sold everything he and his wife had and mortgaged their house even further. He set about and he created his own large language models and his own AI. It's called Barky AI. You can find him on LinkedIn. His name is Chris Barkhurst. It's a great story. He actually niched up in the cannabis industry with his AI in retail kiosks and dispensaries, chatbots, and their inbound, outbound customer service lines with stellar results. And right now, he's having conversations with some of the largest retail and food service companies in the nation. And they are going down the road to where they can see you coming into their store. They can see you coming into their drive-through, and within milliseconds can give you specials either to your device like your phone or to the person at point of sale or the kiosk to serve up specials and coupons based on your history and what you're likely to want to buy on this trip with discounts and all that other fun stuff. So they're going pretty far down the road with current AI applications, but I'm here to tell you there's a lot more going on than just this. And by the way, as we go through this, if you have questions, just hang on to them. And with Jeff's permission, I have left a lot of time on the backside of this for Q&A, whether it's talking about how this is impacting recruiting, or as we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, how it impacts your ability to job search and how you should use it and what you should be aware of when using it. So this is where we are on the recruiting side about how AI is applied. And I put this together and with the help of a couple of guys over at Loxo, our ATS. And the old way we've done search in the past is you'll use filters that are built into a website or use Boolean search or whatever. You go and you identify candidates out of a database or off an online resource, and it could take a long time. I remember way back in the good old days, and please remember, when I started in the headhunting and recruiting business, we were still presenting resumes via fax. And it wasn't that too long before that the gentleman I first worked to was still presenting them via courier, hard copies. Okay, so we've seen a lot of technology as it's developed over time, but nothing this fast. This is a unique event that's occurring right now in the marketplace. That used to require at least a couple hours, maybe 8. I've seen sometimes it required hour to 2 hours a day, every day of the week until it got done, which could be weeks and weeks when it comes to sourcing candidates. But AI takes a peek at the job, analyzes it, the hiring company, and goes out, not just finds candidates, but can also give you a ranked ideal list. So the AI is deciding that based on that profile, this person is a better fit than another person, and so on and so forth. Now, you and I commonly have been told, well, this is completely driven by keyword search engines, which is the old machine learning way of things. That may not be true with generative AI because all the algorithms are built to be adaptive. They're built to learn. They're built to take feedback that yes, this and no, that. And over time, and with enough data and enough iterations, you start getting a much more select group of candidates as far as the rankings go. I know, and I've talked to other groups before, there's advice out there to take keywords and white and put them at the bottom of your resume because the machines will read it when people won't see it. You can do that sort of thing if you want, but a well-constructed resume built around, I prefer to use the STAR method, situation, task, action, result, is far more effective and a much better table setter than a bunch of blanked out words at the bottom of a document. Because if I'm looking at that and I happen to glance down there and I happen to know that trick myself as an internal recruiter and look at that and I see all those keywords in there, what do you think my thought process is going to be about you as a candidate? That's something you have to keep in mind. Just because there's what looks like a cute hack out there doesn't necessarily mean it's the right play for a candidate to do. Now, it used to also take us the old school way to search up a contact, build a message, send an email, make a phone call. It could take time. Now, clever people, remember, I started the first 5 years of my career in the finance and accounting space. And I don't know if you still use the old proverb out there, but you know what CPA stands for? If you said cut and paste accountant, you are correct. I would cut and paste almost every email and just personalize it. You know what? It took time. Maybe it didn't take half an hour per candidate, but it used to take a lot of time. Look, I developed my long list and my short list of my ATS. I give a few pointers that I want to make sure are highlighted to our generative AI. And within a heartbeat or two, it'll generate a multi-step, multimedia outreach approach and go start executing it on me once I edit it for the entire candidate list. It'll do everything except communicate on the phone, which I'll do. But it'll do text, it'll do email, it'll do social media, and it'll prompt me, hey, remember, here's your call list. You need to call these 10 people and serve up the numbers. And all I got to do is click a button and go. So it makes things really, really fast. And that's the beautiful thing about generative AI, y'all. It's not, we can sit back and worry about it replacing or displacing us or what we do. Or we can embrace it for what it really is, which is a complementary tool that should allow us to be more of what we are. And when you do that, your productivity can go up, your effectiveness can go up, your efficiency can go up, and your value can go up as well. So AI is here to stay, because when you look at the state of recruitment, and this could really be on either side of the equation, the employer or the employee, the hiring manager or the candidate, communication is always an issue. If we surveyed everyone on here right now, I have no doubt you all have complaints, justifiable complaints about companies and recruiters not coming back to you in a timely fashion, giving you any idea where you stand, sharing feedback that would be helpful to you to grow as a professional, as a candidate. And companies turn around in the midst of all this and claim, well, communication is important, but what about our time to fill and quality of hire, the cost of hire? How labor intensive is it? Plus, there's all kinds of unquantified internal costs. And when you take both the quantified external cost of using someone like me and the unquantified internal cost and add all this stuff together, it's a known unknown. It can be anywhere from probably 2.5x salary of a position. Some studies take it all the way up in the neighborhood of 35x. So companies need to improve in this area, and AI represents the biggest jump in potential efficiency and improvement they've ever seen. Because most recruiting is still done pretty much the same way it was done in the 60s and the 70s. So how does AI make a job search better? And we're back to this bubble: machine learning, generative AI, theory of the mind. In pragmatic terms, being real practical here, probably not as much as we'd like. We can use it to produce and fine-tune custom letters, cover letters. You could use it to produce tailored or even tuned up resumes against specific jobs. But huge red flag, word of caution here. AI has a tendency to hallucinate. And yes, that's a technical term. And if you have your resume, let me give you an example. Back up. I've been doing this for decades, where I tell candidates all the time that are new to me, please send me your resume in Word format, not PDF. I'm not going to materially change anything in your resume, but this allows me to quickly fix errors, to quickly address typos, to highlight certain things. Sometimes people's have their resume built in such a way that the eyes of the reader don't follow the way we want them to. And so I may adjust formatting a little bit, but I never, ever, never, ever, ever change the data that's on there. That is you defining you. That is one of the first things a potential employer sees about you. If you have AI tune it to match a job description, and they go anywhere beyond where I currently go today, then you're lying on your paper. Now stop and think about that for a second. AI tunes your resume for a specific job. You get invited in, you get in the interview process, and they ask you something, you realize, I've never done that before, but now it's front and center on my resume. We are moving, or we're in the process of this transition from what we could call the creator economy to what we call the editor economy. And yeah, AI can give you a lot. It can give you 70, 80% of what you're looking for, but you need to be in control of the rest of it. You need to make sure you give it the correct oversight. And part of that is knowing when not to use it. I highly recommend that you do not have AI, generative AI specifically, tailor your resumes or fine tune them, because that resume is a reflection of you, not what a machine creates or thinks it's creating. It needs hand holding, and you're still going to have to do the work of identifying, applying, and managing the workflows. And AI, and this is key, cannot network for you. Not like the network opportunity you have here. And I got to pause for a second. I thought about this earlier to compliment Jeff and everybody who's participated and announcing themselves or sharing interview tips and so on and so forth. You have a fantastic networking opportunity. Is it perfect? Is it going to help 100% of the people who come through the doors? No, nothing does. But it gives you a tremendous leg up. I've done presentations like this a number of times now, and this is the most robust group with the best format I've seen so far. And so it's kudos to Jeff and kudos to you all for making it work. Look, being on the candidate side of the equation is hard. It's hard. AI is not going to get you over the finish line, but it can help you get to the finish line faster. That's what's important. Just don't let it run away with the truth. About 12 years, maybe 13 years ago now, I believe it was Harvard Business Review did a study in conjunction with LinkedIn. And they determined from that study that 80% of the online LinkedIn profiles and resumes contain a material misstatement or error. Now, if you have an accounting degree, you're familiar with that term. That means something got left out that mattered, or accidentally included that matters, or intentionally left out or included. It comes from the world of audit. That resume needs to speak to what you are. You can put every responsibility and job title on there and still not present a clear picture of who you are as a candidate and what you do. So it is important that that resume speaks to that. If it doesn't, if you look at that resume and you read it out loud to yourself and you're like, okay, I know what this guy's responsibilities are, but what have they actually accomplished? Then you need to spend some time working on your resume. And we'll talk about that some more in a minute. So what are the limits of AI today? I think this is hypercritical to understand. Number one, it cannot empathize with people. We just mentioned, you got to do your own networking. You got to get out, you got to meet people, press the flesh, communicate. You can do that through social media. Face-to-face, to me, is still builds the deepest bonds, but it does have its limits in terms of volume and reach. But AI can't step in and empathize with people for you. It cannot replace the human touch, cannot replace things that require emotional intelligence yet. And it has a hard time replacing judgment that you've learned over the years. So very deep knowledge workers, people who are actually applying that knowledge and intuitive judgments, their jobs probably aren't going to shift a lot right now today, like others who aren't as deep. It can totally lack common sense reasoning and understanding, and it cannot understand context. Now, it's making progress, but the run-of-the-mill AI engines that you see out there that you work with they aren't there yet. It takes a tremendous amount of computing power. You don't hear a lot about it because AI is so popular right now. But if you are interested in the impact of carbon in the environment, it's rapidly moving into the pole position of one of the biggest producers of carbon out there, because it just sucks up electricity for not just processing, but for air conditioning at a rate that baffles the mind. Tasks that require a lot of experience and intuition, it's still beyond its grasp. And the same thing with dealing with very complex unstructured data. Now, let me put the caveat: there are steps being made, progress being made to dealing with unstructured data. But right now, your brain is the most powerful processor of unstructured data known to mankind. If you think about it, most of the things that you see around you are unstructured. Reading gives us knowledge, but it's structured in a format. What about understanding just the world around us? How hard is it for you to look around and look up the sky and think, hey, I think we're about to have a thunderstorm, versus it's just another day? Versus, hey, how did when people were standing up and introducing themselves earlier in this call, which person stood out the most? It could be different for everyone, but the fellow there in the green shirt at the front row, I forget his name, my apologies, he had a little stumble when he first got up. Oh, do I get up or do I get down? Which is it? If he stands up, it chops off the top half of his body in the screen. If he sits down, you can see his face. But now that I brought it up, everybody remembers it. Somebody tell me, except for the person who did it, what did someone say? What was the lead in 3 people before him? And see, that's kind of the difference in recognizing structured versus unstructured data. Okay, you want to be known and remembered. You got to give people something to remember. It stands out to us because it's unstructured. It's not necessarily expected. So AI typically can only function within the limits of its given data, i.e. inside the box, and you have to fact check it. Remember, it's meant to complement your ability. It's not there to compete with you. Even though it may feel competitive, it's not there to compete with you. It's because we move from a creator economy to an editor economy. I'm telling you right now, and this is what this last point at the bottom is about, we all must be prepared to reinvent ourselves and how we go about things. Because the World Economic Forum estimates that AI is going to replace 85 million jobs in the next couple of years. But it's also going to generate or create 97 incremental more jobs. Approximately. Might be 96.3 million. I don't know what the exact number is, but approximately. And let me give you a couple of examples. Every position I'm working on right now, personally working on, is what I call a fusion position, where we're taking a hard skill, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, meteorology, something of that nature, and finding candidates fusing it with data science or data engineering. And you're going to see more and more of these fusion roles. In fact, I just talked to a CHRO last week who just took over a regional bank. And one of the first requests he has from the C-suite is, wow, we need this one position filled. Great, what is it? And she shared the title, and the guy I was talking to goes, what? Never heard of that, because they want to fuse specific banking compliance functions with data science. And that didn't exist 3 years ago, not as such. In fact, the CHRO I was talking to, he said, I looked at her and said, I've never heard of this, and I've been in banking 27 years. So there's a lot of that that's going to be going on. So don't forget, along the way, try to view AI and what it does, not as a competitor, but as a complement, another tool that you can learn to use and lever in your efforts. Because frankly, finding a job is hard enough. Hiring great people is hard enough. Any tool that makes it easier, more efficient, we ought to be welcoming. So the future state of recruiting, it's evolving. It's different today than it was 6 months ago, and we have to evolve with it. I would encourage you, if you want to hear more about AI capabilities, on the sabretooth.com website. The address is there for our podcast page where you can live stream it a number of different ways. But every other week we drop a new episode. Almost every episode that we drop after the first episode contains components about AI and how it's changing business today, how it's changing it for hiring teams, how it's changing it for candidates. Highly encourage you that you give a listen to some of those folks out there, because we're talking with people who are sitting in a C-suite or right below it, and they're involved in the weeds with this every day. And Jeff, I really don't have anything else relative to the presentation other than, like I told you before, and you've heard me do before, I'm totally open on Q&A for whatever you guys want to throw out there, whether it's about AI, about finding a job, about interview questions, whatever it might be. I'm here to tackle whatever y'all want to throw out.
John, thank you very much. One of the things I guess I do want to mention, and it's sort of interesting because you said, don't let AI generate your resume or cover letter. We have a speaker coming in 4 weeks who I think that's what they're going to talk about. I haven't gotten the details yet of what the presentation is, but how to use AI for your resume. So just here we go, you know.
Well, it's a back and forth, but I mean, you can use it for the cover letter. I wasn't talking about that, but tuning a resume to a job is different than having it tuned to you as a candidate. And it's going to create issues. In fact, I spoke with a CEO of an AI-powered robotics company out in Silicon Valley earlier this week. And I talked to him several weeks ago. I've known this gentleman for a long time now. And we were talking about an advisory board he's on where they're trying to find a way to apply AI in the recruiting process, but specifically starting on the candidate side. And one of the first services they want to offer is resume tuning to specific jobs. And I looked at him and I said, man, that is a dangerous place to go, because AI can, just like you and I have mission creep and drift, it can drift. And over time, the more it's allowed to drift, the more bias and other factors creep in there. And the next thing you know, that resume, it's in that material misstatement, error space. And that job you think you're going to get that you're interviewing for now becomes out of reach. Right. And that's not a pleasant experience. Now, tailor your cover letter all you want. Don't particularly matter about that. But that resume, that's you. It needs to define that picture of you and not the picture that AI determines is going to best fit that job description.
All right, we'll open up for questions. If anybody has any question, come grab the mic. Come on up here, grab the mic. Hold on just 1 second here. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Question away.
Thank you for the presentation. Loved it. So
Thank
the
you.
question that I have is, in the past, I've known that because of that, you've mentioned the long time it took for someone or a system to go look at a resume. You said like 2 to 8 hours. And so with that time, recruiters, if anything was submitted after like 2 or 3 days, it was just too difficult for them to continue to go forward and look at candidates. Or at least that's what I've been told for reporters. But since AI can go through resumes quicker, do companies now look at candidates, like they're submitted for the entire week or, maybe 2 weeks. And then as good candidates and resumes come in, then add that to the pool that they're going to use to interview. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I would imagine most of the recruiters you talked to first and gotten that information from, I would imagine they're primarily contingent recruiters. And contingent recruiters must, by definition, they must pursue transactions. And when you're pursuing a transaction, you get rewarded to loyalty for the transaction, which means the faster you put in a successful resume, because you can't get paid till after a person's placed, the better off you are. Well, the problem is suppose we have a geographic area and a client brings on 5 contingent recruiters, 5 different firms. 98% of the people they look at are probably going to have a lot of overlap. They're going to be on LinkedIn, they're going to be on Monster, they're going to be a career builder, whatever. They're going to find a lot of the same people, and it's going to be about who gets attention to the candidate first and presents the resume. So in theory, there's probably a train of thought that we've saturated the market. And so after a handful of days of looking, it's not worth it anymore because everybody else is looking. With AI coming in, it's going to look quickly, But you have to understand people are still using it for an inbound context instead of an outbound. So if you were to go and talk to somebody who does high-end retained search, the really big good firms for most vast majority of the roles, they do not post ads. They do the research necessary to find a target pool, and they do everything outbound. They call, they email, they reach out via text, social media, whatever. And they go attack that pool looking for who's available and interested because they believe the people they identify in the pool would fit the profile. Anyway, from a technical side, you don't have that luxury because you have to have a transaction to get paid for contingent. But the AI side, it doesn't matter when a resume hits, it's going to cycle it through until they shut it off. If it hits on day 1 or day 100, as long as they're actively looking, it's going to serve up to whoever, whatever the next step in the line is. That, okay, this resume potentially fits the profile. There won't be a time limit on it except when they flip the switch off.
Great, good question. All right, Alexandra, you had a question you put in the chat. Do you want to read it? You want me to read it for you?
I read it.
Okay.
Sure. So let me scroll up here. Give me a second. Where is it? So earlier, you shared the benefits of sending a resume via Word for editing options. Is it any editable file, including Google Docs, because we don't all have Word? I know you can convert.
Yeah.
Google,
Anything. I have a love, that's a personal preference. I have a love-hate relationship with PDF. It all looks really good.
Right.
But if I could wrap my hands around the neck of PDF, around the neck of Adobe, and strangle that thing some days, I would happily do it. But just in Word or a GDoc, I've got a lot more flexibility to make fix a typo on the fly. And look, we all make typos.
Yeah.
Or enhance the formatting. So when I look at a resume, I look for big idea, tighter context, and accomplishments bullet pointed underneath it. If you tell me on a resume, for example, that you're X, well, if I'm a recruiter in that space, I generally know what X is, but a blurb about the context of the company and your title and responsibilities are all I need. And then I'm really personally, I really look for task action result for the bullet points.
Right, the PER method.
The more quantified results or quantified projected results that are on there within reason, at least 2 or 3 bullet points per job, and maybe more if you have a lot of tenure in it, the better. Because what you're telling me as an interviewer is here's how I have added value. And as an interviewer, unless I'm just nuts and completely focused off reading a piece of paper, I'm going to want to explore with you how you did that. It's kind of like I want to understand you from a cultural alignment perspective as an interviewer. So culture is not a cup of coffee sitting at your desk when you walk in the morning, although I'm not objectional to it. And it's not lunch brought in every day or this or that. It's not ping pong and Wii systems and whatever. Culture is how you go about your business. If you try to take an actuarial accountant out of an insurance company and put them in a hair on fire startup that just got seed funding, you're probably going to have a train wreck, and vice versa, because those two groups do things very differently. You want to have people who align closely with how your team and your organization goes about business, because the closer that alignment is, the less energy people spend on putting up a facade of, okay, this is me fitting in and being a good employee and making my manager happy. That energy would be better invested in actually executing on your tasks and adding value. So the closer you can align the organization and the individual in terms of how they go about their business, the greater odds of success of a quality hire. And I would tell you, as a candidate, I want to understand where that company hangs its hat. What is a day in the life like? So use your resume and the task action result bullets underneath the situation or context that you're in to really drive that conversation. And be as specific as you want to be. Tell me more. What is a day in a life like? How do you handle a crisis? What was your approach to this problem? And what was the result? There's no rule out there that says you can't interview the interviewer, but you do it smartly coming from your context and constantly draw them back to your accomplishments, your value adds. If that makes sense to you. I know it's a little bit more than what you asked for, but I just wanted to make sure I nailed it.
Well, since you did answer the question, thank you very much. Since you did bring this up, are there any benefit? Is there anything we should be doing as job applicants that are positive or negative towards the different ATS systems? Like Word, yeah.
That's a deep
loaded
question because ATS systems and how they score and look at people can have some variance. So if you look at the ATS in a system like NetSuite that's built on a relational database versus the one that's in Workday, which is done with objects, you know, there could be some different ways they function therein, but most ATSs, number one, they're really there to force you to self-select out. True story. We've got compliance issues. We need to make sure that XYZ uncovered. And oh, by the way, if this is really tedious and boring and you got to create an account, you got to do this, and then you got to manually input your resume bit by bit, you know, it's really about self-selection. And frankly, those things drive me nuts. I think it's insulting. And I think people should run away. But I would tell you, dealing with different ATSs, your resume should still be you. But I would look, if you've had 10 jobs that you really liked, I would take the top 2 or 3. I would go look to find the hiring manager on LinkedIn and just network. Just say hello, ask to connect. You know, don't go around spamming people, but draw attention to yourself. And I would tell you on LinkedIn too, have some content out there. You don't have to develop stuff from scratch, but you see something once a day or once or twice a week that interests you, make a comment and repost it to your feed. Show that you're active and not just searching for a job and applying. It's going to give people flavor. And let me tell you something. I learned this lesson a long time ago. I hired a person who came into my team who just blew the doors off. She was fabulous. Just fantastic. Well, the day she started, one of the guys on the team did a Google search, and it come to find out that she happened to be a workout fitness model and had been on the cover of some magazines and had these big photo shoots. And I go into the bullpen and I'm like, what are you looking at? You know, this is like 2008-ish, 9, 10, somewhere around there. And I look and said, wait a second, dude, we're supposed to be here working. And I looked and he goes, yeah, but that's her. And it was horribly embarrassing. She hated it. I hated it, but it taught me a lesson that now when I look at a candidate, I'm going to look at your LinkedIn profile and I'm going to take a perusal through it. If it's somebody that I'm interested in or my client's interested in, I'm going to look at it. And I'm probably going to Google you too and see if you're out there on Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram, because all those things can be areas of interest or dismay during the hiring and onboarding process. So I would tell you that I would do active outreach and follow the companies that interest me most on LinkedIn. I'd be cautious with the rest of my social media, and I would try to connect with people. And if you find that groups within companies that interest you have networking events going on, which is not unusual, especially if you join an alumni group for a company, if that's possible, or an interest group or a follow group, you can find opportunities to connect with individuals. And you never know where that help or that extra boost somewhere would come from, if that makes sense to you. Because I think right now, I think in the next 3 years, the whole keyword, buzzword, accumulation on your resume stuff, I think that's largely going to be dead in the water. And I think some companies are already killing it. You know, it's going to come down, how do you score against an ideal profile or against just job description, profile to profile, or a resume to the profile, rather than do you have enough buzzwords or keywords on your resume? So, but yes, I hate ATSs and I would burn them all down and start over if I could. But apparently there are laws against that.
All right, there was a question here. I hear companies do companies have to disclose when they're using AI?
It may be so in some states, but I mean, remember, machine learning is a form of AI. Every ATS out there, they all use it. I mean, so maybe they have to disclose you're using AI in communication with you. That has, I think, potential, but certainly not that they're using AI to vet your resume.
What about, should we, as an applicant, say that we were using AI as we're generating documents?
You know what? If you edited it properly, they'll never know. But if you use the bulk of it and it doesn't sound like you, they'll know, or they'll figure it out if you go through the process. However, occasionally the clever twist of, you know, blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, please note, this is 100% natural intelligence generated, not artificially intelligent created.
Put a little star and put that at the very bottom.
Yeah, put a little caveat down there, you know. Look, a little pointer here, especially when you go into interview. I don't care if it's on the phone or on the video chat or in person. Be yourself. Don't put a facade up. I mean, be polite. Use honorifics if called for. Wear a, dress for success if need be, whatever. But be yourself. And if yourself is having a little bit of a wicked sense of humor, or you like a certain turn of phrase, be that. Don't tell so many dad jokes that the other person, begs for mercy. That's not good. But let them know who you are. We spend an immense amount of time around the people we work with, either directly or virtually or however. So might as well get to know them. And the looser you are, the more you are, the more sincere and genuine your interviewers, even in a panel interview, will be with you. Now, occasionally you run into a real bonehead, but that's their problem. That's not yours. If you're anyone other than yourself, then you're selling yourself short.
Okay. Question here, Walt?
Yes, this is Walt Glass. Good morning, and thank you
Hey,
for
Walt.
the information that you provided today. Well, I'm a member of the generation that's going to have a hard time embracing AI as an effective tool, and I realize it's there and it's going to be part of the society and part of the way we do things. So my question to you is this: you were mentioning some of the limitations, and AI can't determine, I think, a culture fit so far. Would you agree?
I think they are trying to get in that direction. It takes a lot of punch. But straight up today, no. Can it find indicators, or can it be trained in a certain direction? Yes, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. But today, no, it doesn't really do that. That's still a human decision.
Because I don't see a lot of resumes that have the soft skills characteristics even listed. They might be hidden in a couple of things at the top of the page or something like that, but it's not.
I wouldn't list soft skills on a resume anyway. You need to demonstrate them on the resume. And that goes back to the whole STAR thing. Maybe you had to turn a team around. Maybe you had to navigate. I remember I had a job in accounting, working at USA Waste back before we merged with Waste Management in the late 90s. And I had an interpersonal conflict with our IT person. And my boss pulled me aside and basically said, "You're in trouble of getting schwacked, getting booted out of here, because you're having this conflict and you need to get past it. You guys need to figure out how to work things together." And it wasn't like there was any specific thing, but what I had to do was take the time, instead of thinking that I was, 24 and knew it all out of college, I had to take the time to listen to the other person first. And so I worked that in, not into my resume per se, but I worked that into interviews in the future. Right. And so when you go in, you tackle a task or a problem, you take this action, you have this result. That's where you should be demonstrating that. Plus demonstrating the soft skill of being able to verbally and, be able to communicate clearly with the written word.
Okay. When you make a recommendation to a company for a candidate, what that you can recommend beyond this candidate can do the job?
Oh, I definitely do the whole alignment, the cultural alignment bit, and why it makes sense. We work on a retained basis on a model, under a model we call retingent. We're sporting 100% fill rate in the past year on everything we've taken off since we launched the firm. And before summer vacations hit, we're averaging 35 days and the time to fill. So we were kind of feeling like rock stars. Those are great results. working with a select group of clients that are paying us a sizable retainer and then paying us nothing else until we actually fill the role. So kind of blending, not working at the C-suite level, but not working at entry low level, but kind of that mid-level range of folks where it makes sense to do this sort of thing. And we typically generate a profile on a candidate that addresses accomplishments, skills, interests, where they want to go, why this makes sense, and cultural alignment. But we're typically trying to present 3 to 5 candidates as a short list, and then we're moving into interviews and forward. So we have a little bit different value prop, USP, and how we go about that than a lot of firms do out there.
Oh, I like that answer very much. Thank you. When you're selecting someone, is there anything beyond the fact that they can do the job? When you're selecting a resume, it's just your initial selection process.
I mean, if you put everything else aside, somebody gives us a mandate that this is, driven in part because of their DEI initiatives and things like that. Of course, we have to consider all that and who we look at and whatnot. But, I'll tell you, get a candidate who's 100% fit, beware. Beware. Most companies, if they look at things through an honest lens, they're going to want to hire somebody who's maybe an 80% fit, 85, something like that, because people need room to grow. And if they don't have a career step that's pending in 6 to 12 months for this person who's 100% fit, they're going to run into a conflict. So when we look at this, that's part of the conversation, and it's part of the stuff that you don't necessarily see bubbling up through the resume is, why does this person make sense? And AI hasn't arrived there yet. It's still a human to human thing. As well as understanding the reasons behind each transition on a person's resume. Because if those reasons aren't consistent, if their priorities have some level of consistency, if they're wildly different, or it's constantly pursuit of more money, those are huge red flags. But how's AI going to know that from a piece of paper?
Thank you.
Something we have to get in and discover and socialize with the client.
In the future, I'll have my computer talk to your computer.
Hey, that may be coming. There's a question out here from on the chat from John, and forgive me for not being able to pronounce the name. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but there's something out here I think that is everybody should have on their mind. He wants a full-time position, but he's with the economy and ageism. How do you get your foot in the door, say, as a contractor? I would tell you right now, and this is my opinion, but I think it's very critical, that one of the results of this wave of generative AI that's flooding the market and will continue to do this over the next few years, one of the couple of things it's going to result in is a wave of entrepreneurialism, like the gentleman I mentioned earlier, Wht AI. It's going to generate a lot more push for people to be more specialized in their career, to be very deep knowledge workers in a sense. As a result of that second point, I think there are going to be a lot more people who look at fractionalized work as a career path. Maybe not early in career, because you don't have the knowledge and experience yet to have that value to make that make sense. But I think later on in the career, and I think it's going to be fed a lot by this wave of entrepreneurialism. I just this week got the offer letter signed on a person who's going to be, we call it chief solutions officer, but a person really be our head marketer. Our person is going to drive that front end of the business development pipeline. Before, either I did it or someone did it fractionally. There are tons of companies out there that need a CMO type person or a CFO type person, but they can't afford a 200 or 300K salary year over year. But you know what? They got 50 grand they can spend. And so one of the skills that I think will be very valuable is the ability to understand what you do well in depth and bring that fractionally to the marketplace, which is not that different from a job search in a lot of respects, because you need to network, you need to get yourself out there, you need to really talk about where you add value and how you can make it worth for that $20 million company or that $5 million company to spend 40, 50 grand on your services a year and get 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. Insofar as getting benefits and, hourly rates may not be as desirable. There are a lot of ways to deal with that nowadays that everyone should explore. But, I would just tell you that it's really important to, if you want to get your foot in the door, especially if you're a very skilled, specialized person, a professional, is take the time to explore contract and fractional opportunities. I would think you'd be more attractive as a candidate anyway if you are working than being on the beach somewhere waiting for a job 6 months, 12 months, a year. There's a podcast, the very first podcast we published was a former CTO at Sears, ex-Amazon, third person hired in India for Amazon India way back in early 2000s. Brilliant guy, really neat guy too. Mo just took a job with an IT consulting firm, and they put him in an interim CIO gig in Chicago, which is great. He's fantastic, but the reason he did it is he doesn't want this massive gap to get any bigger on his resume from his last FTE role. So, and if you're a contractor, if you're fractional and you've built a brand and a business around it, you can't do this. But if you're a contractor making hourly, don't stop looking for permanent work. Just don't stop. And if you find it, give them a week or two notice and move on to your new gig.
That was going to be the question, John. If you can hear me.
Yeah, absolutely.
The last name is Sherba. Last name is Sherba. I apologize for the for the spelling. It's plagued me all my life, but that's okay. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing Billy Idol wasn't on this call because he used the term rock star. So he may have had some things to say about using the term rock star. But in any event, that was my concern and points. And I could tell when I got contacted. My background, and I know there's a lot of people on here that do supply chain logistics, right? I heard a gentleman earlier. Also, my specialty though is launching SAP initiatives, and so I got contacted for an SAP contractor role to stress test their logistics and their WMS programs. Right? I'm using acronyms that are industry specific, and I could almost tell from the locations and everything. It is actually a target company that had a more senior level role in their logistics department. And my concern was a resume coming in on two sides of the building, one coming in from, say, that's going to a senior director of logistics, another resume coming in from there's a company in Pennsylvania, I'll use the name, I apologize, but it's a Judge Group, right? They do a lot of contract type of recruiting, if you will. And my concern was my resume coming in from both sides of the building, on one side, influencing my background in logistics and operations, coming in the other side from the Judge Group as highlighting my technical skills a little differently.
So let me ask you a quick question. Let me ask you a question. If you look at the pyramid of where the role ultimately reports to, like within a level or two, are they the same person or same team? I
would think eventually it could be.
Okay.
They're probably
if it's eventually, and you're talking, 4, 5, 6 layers, I wouldn't even fret about it. And to answer this question and to answer another question I see popping up from Kim Jones. If you're doing fractional work, you're probably going to contract directly. But if you're going to go in on a contract like what you're talking about, you're going to be working for that recruiting firm effectively as the employer of record. And depending on the state and the rules, typically they have to offer benefits. And most states, I don't even think, for higher end professional jobs, they don't even do an hourly rate per se. They do a day rate now. And when I started, it was all hourly all the time. But you couldn't get somebody to work on an hourly rate that worked out to what they netted W-2 in a full-time gig. You would have to go with what would get them a gross up to get them to that or better. But most of these firms, if you work past, 90 days, sometimes 30 days, they offer benefit packages as well, especially in these really long-term contracts, because they have to keep people. You know,
And
and
I
while
know
you're
the
in there,
question, the
hey,
ver-
while you're in there, find out where that other role is sitting. Let them know you exist, because now you've got, you may not be on the in crowd, but you're inside the building.
Great.
Uh,
Any other, yeah.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
John.
happy to.
I have a three-part question about culture.
Okay.
Talk about culture, you talk about culture alignment. So as a recruiter, how do you find out what the culture is of your client, the company?
Mhm.
Question one. The second question, as an applicant, short of what's your company culture, are there better questions we can ask to determine what the culture of your company is like? And number three, how do you determine whether or not the candidate's a good fit, what cultural fit for a client?
Okay. Oh, fair enough. And let me preface it with, when you look at interview questions, or you look at how you interview a candidate versus what you ask of a client, it's a coin. And you got heads, you got tails. And your questions, it's really just different sides of the equation, right? If you have an equal sign in the middle, I'm looking to solve for these variables. So the core questions are often very similar, even the same. So we always do an intake brief. And by this time in our model, we've typically had a number of conversations with the hiring team or executive. And we ask simply, what's a day in a life like? What's different about you? For example, I have a client right now that's in commodity trading, and most commodity trading companies focus on the trading and then they use data science to support it. My client is the opposite. They're a bunch of crackerjack whiz bang data scientists who love math, which is insane, right? I mean, they really love math, but they love math and they happen to apply it in their particular commodity trading space and do it very successfully. So the difference there is they're not looking for someone to come in and support their decision process like the first model. And their model, everything is backed up by machine learning models, everything. And that difference has completely changed the complexion of what our candidate pool has to look like, right? Because culturally, how they go about achieving their business is different than how all these other competitors go about it. So I just can't take someone from a competitor and bring them over unless they have the flexibility and demonstrate it in their assessment process of being a data scientist, of looking at problems in the abstract and solving complex things with mathematics with these models. So how do we do it? We dig in and find out how they go about their business. Then when we talk to candidates, what's important to you? So a role I just filled with them, the guy we took actually from a competitor was in a situation where he supported over 100 traders with his analytics. John, I love data science, is what I want to do, but I can't get any depth in my experience and understanding supporting 100 people every day. My client has about 40 traders globally and over 150 analysts and developers. Again, the complete opposite. And it's reflected in those ratios, and it's reflected in why this guy eventually made this decision. He could have probably made more money in the short term elsewhere, in a similar situation to what he was in, but where we put him, he gets to follow his passion, which aligns with their passion, which is data science. That enables him to do this other cool stuff in trading, but data science is the passion. Okay, so I think by way of example, that kind of describes to you how we go about it. What makes you tick? How do you go about this? Because when you find out how people are doing stuff, you learn a lot about why they're doing stuff, and you find out what's it going to take for a person day in, day out to align with that, fit into that, and really focus on being great at what they do versus on how do I make this other person happy. I don't know if that hit all 3 points in there.
I think you hit two. Then the other question is, if I am an applicant trying to find out what kinds of questions would I ask? Hey, what's a day in the life? Or what are the questions that could help me better understand?
The day in the life question is great. I encourage people to ask it every time. And I'll even be more specific. Hey, tell me what your typical day looks like. Tell me how, or give me an example. I've run into this problem before. Have you run into a similar problem? Yeah, great. How did you go about solving that problem? What's your approach? What resources do you bring to bear? Is it a team effort? Are you stuck off in a corner figuring out? And just dive into it. You know, interviewees make a mistake when you spend too much time talking about yourself. I want to get the interviewer to talk about themselves and their company because they're more passionate about that in that interview than they're passionate about me. So how do I do that? Number one, I don't ask yes or no questions. Binary questions are out the door. How, what, when, why, where? In fact, if you go out and look at my LinkedIn feed for the last decade, when I give this piece of advice, I've given it for a long time. Every question you ask should be built around how, what, when, why, where. You should ask questions that display your natural curiosity, your sincerity, and you should never end an interview without questions in your back pocket, because if you do, you're going to get asked the question, the infamous trap question, do you have any questions for me? And if you say no, you're toast, almost without exception. So you got to come up with something. Well, do I want to come up with something that has a pithy answer like yes or no, or do I want to come up with something where they need to explain to me why they don't have the previous person in this position? Why didn't they, if they're gone from the company, why didn't they work out? You get some crazy answers asking that, but those are the sorts of questions you ask to at least get a sense for how it is to work there and how they go about their business, because that's absolutely critical. If you want to succeed, you got to align with that.
Great, John, that's really great advice. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions in here? Any questions online? Anybody online have a question? Unmute your mic. You're welcome to ask. We're about running out of time here. We've looked, I'm watching the chat. So, all right. All right. My question for you, John, one last question is, look at your crystal. What do you see going on with the economy? What do you see for job seekers? You know, what are you seeing in your business?
Man, that's a loaded question, Jeff.
That's why I asked the good ones.
I'm getting to the point where as soon as you asked that, I thought, oh, he's going to start asking about the hamburger. I'm just envisioning the hamburger in my head, you know?
I'll tell you, if you want that hamburger, I actually took a picture of it and took it to the place that we're going to. What would it cost to make it? And they came up with $32 or $35, but they don't have ham slices. You'd have to bring your own ham to put on there.
Oh, bring your own ham. Okay. Well, I could do without the ham, but yeah, there's actually a barbecue place near where I am that's been here forever. And I mean, literally forever. Called Midway Barbecue that has a similar kind of burger, but with brisket and pork loin and boneless rib. And it's like, you know, yay big. And I'm a little bit afraid of it. Anyway, what's gonna be happening, I think, is the speed of evolution. So a few years ago, you know, I'm in the Houston area. I'm actually in Katy on the west side of Houston. But a few years ago, I'm sitting in an office in the Galleria, which I'm never commuting there again, thank goodness. Woohoo. And looking at the Houston Business Journal. And there's an article in there that took the oil glut and collapse in the 80s and charted the rig count. And this went down, 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 down like this. But it was 2014, I think, when the oil field collapsed, the rig count collapsed. They took that same chart and put it on top. Almost identical difference, starting and end in terms of the numerical difference from both events. But in the current time, it went boom, just like that. And I postulated at the time that I think our economic cycles in the oil and gas business are getting more and more and more compressed. So you have steeper drops and steeper climbs. I think in the tech space, we started seeing that. They hadn't really seen mass layoffs since around Y2K-ish, you know, after that, the dot-com bubble, so 99 or so. Ever since then, it's been grow, 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 grow. Well, the past 2 years, it's been cut, 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 cut. But part of that was because they overhired during the lockdowns. Part of that is because tech is evolving. And so the people working in tech need to evolve. But now that is spread everywhere rapidly with generative AI. So I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil. I think there are going to be, over the next 3 years, 5 years at most, there's going to be metric tons of positions you never heard of before. There's going to be positions that maybe have familiar looking titles, but what's actually in a role is different. In fact, was it Rosanna? I'm sorry if I got the name wrong earlier. The article she's sharing, they were talking about, if you go back to 2017, there are areas where the skills people needed, 20, 30% of that has changed now. So be prepared for a lot of that. If you think you're going to go sit in a career for 30 or 40 years doing the same thing day over day, it ain't going to happen. But also keep your eye out for opportunities to be an expert in your niche. We have an expression in the recruiting business that riches are in niches. Now, yes, if you're from the UK, you're going, it's niche, John, it's niche. Stupid colonial. Listen, we won. We took English with us as part of the bargain. And we can do what we want. And I'm in Texas, so I can really do what I want with it. Y'all hear me now? All right. So it's the same sort of thing. Here, you have this incredible opportunity as a candidate. And please look at it this way, through this lens, at least once in a while, to reinvent yourself in ways that you didn't have 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And take the time to put some thought into what your real strengths are, what your real passions are. It's harder to do early career, but if you're mid-career and later, I think there are huge opportunities here. The challenge is going to be finding it and staying the course. Having said that, if employment's what you want to pursue versus entrepreneurialism or being a fractional expert, I think the opportunities are there. You just have to be aware they're not what they were. And companies are to be very selective. And yes, there is, and someone had mentioned earlier, there is bias. I think there's probably the strongest bias out there today. Let's say the strongest non-politically oriented bias out there today is ageism. You got people like Zuckerberg who says the younger people are smarter than the older people. That's how he looked at candidates. Well, that's a great way to get sued. What a way to go, since you're so smart. But the opportunities are there, and I think there's fantastic things that will come up. I just can't tell you when they're all going to come up, and I can't tell you anything about what tech's going to look like in 3 years, but I can tell you this: the fundamentals are not going to change. How you do the fundamentals might change, but the fundamentals aren't changing. Get the fundamentals, network, engage with people, be a human being, and be flexible in how you apply your skills, and good things will happen. But you've got to do it enough times the right way to hit the time that puts the right opportunity on your path to take advantage of. So I'd encourage everybody to keep that in mind. And I'd leave you with this, Jeff, and for everyone remaining, if you have a chance, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn under John Light. Find me, send me a connection invite. I'm happy to connect. There's a lot of stuff in my feed and activity around interviewing tips, resume work. And by the way, kudos to your PIT team. Number one, love the name. Number two, I counsel candidates every day on practicing before an interview, because you're going to outperform 90% of your peer group because they're not practicing. So go do it. And thank you very much, Jeff, for sharing the time with me on the floor.
John, thank you very, very much. I'll be sure to put John's email address, phone number, his LinkedIn address. I'll put all that into an email this afternoon that'll go out. So if you want to connect with him, be sure, though, when you send him a note, be sure to send that personal connection note, thanking him for his presentation today, and do that. So John, thank you very, very much. All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. A couple things we'll get out of here. Next Friday, we're going to do open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about. So start putting your questions together, and we will get those answered for you next week. And everybody who's with us will be able to just offer their advice and opinions. If you've not put your 30-second introductions into the Zoom chat window, please do so. That way I can update the roster, and we can, if anybody's got any contacts we need, we can be able to help you out this afternoon. Career DFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Next Tuesday, our LinkedIn presentation for LinkedIn Tuesdays will be Ruth Lipsky. She'll be talking about how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. On Wednesday, for Interviewing Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting live and in person. They'll be meeting right here at Christ United Methodist Church. 3101 Coit Road. We're at the southwest corner of Parker and Coit. Park in the north parking lot, follow the signs. There'll be no online session. Our next online session will be not 9/27. It'll be 10. It'll be the second Wednesday in October. Here we go. Here's where the practice interview team is meeting in person coming Wednesday. Next Thursday, first Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about effective resumes. I'll be doing the presentation, primarily addressing your resume, how to make sure you get it into the ATS system, and some good basic common formatting structures on what your resume should look like. This session has been recorded. You will be able to go back and watch it on the Career DFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. It'll take a couple hours to get it uploaded, but it'll be up there probably by dinner time tonight. On the Career USA YouTube channel, we've got over 540 videos. They're all into 7 different topics, 7 different playlists. Pick the playlist you want. If you want to rewatch this one, go to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers. And just remember that our speakers start about 25 to 30 minutes into the videos. And once you click on view full playlist, up will come a list with all the dates and topics. You can go back and watch those at your convenience. Come join us today, 1145 Country Burger, 3115 West Parker Road, the northwest corner of Parker at Independence. And thanks everybody for having a great weekend. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks everybody for being here in the room. And when we get offline here, we're going to do a little open forum and see how we can help people that are with us. So thank you for being with us today.